Welcome back to the Junkman's Adventures. I'm the Junkman, and today we're going to look at some basic tools for working on your motorcycle. I want to start off and say that this video is for the beginner, not for the professional. The professional that does this every day in a shop has already acquired most of these tools and already has a source for all these tools. What I'm going to show here is the bare minimum of tools that you need to do some basic and routine maintenance and maybe a little bit more. And I'm going to show the tools that I think you should have in your toolbox before you get started. Now, a word about tools, tool manufacturers, and where you buy your tools. Now, this is not a sponsored video, and I may only reference a tool brand if I think it is the best out there for that particular tool. Otherwise, generically, any brand of tool is going to suffice, especially for the beginner that's doing it in his garage, like I am here, not doing it for a living. There's, of course, the tool truck brands out there, and you know what those are. And if you're in the business, you definitely want to go with that stuff because you need support. You want quality tools and support behind those tools, because when you break something, you need to be able to get a new tool readily available. We're us garage mechanics and weekend warriors. If we break a tool, we can wait a little bit, generally speaking. So wherever you buy your tools, from either the tool store, the China Marts out there, you know what I'm talking about here. A good rule of thumb is to buy the best tool you can afford. And that's where I'm going to leave that. Now let's get started. Let's first start off with some safety. That means safety glasses. Pick out some that are comfortable for you and that don't fog up on you. And if you keep them in a pouch and such, you can keep them from getting scratched up and they'll last a long time. But it's very important to wear safety glasses. Hearing protection is another thing, because you might be starting your bike in your garage, preferably with the garage door open, or outside, and you want to protect your ears. I like to use these earmuff type, otherwise the squishy plug type are fine as well. The other thing here is fire suppression, or basic fire extinguishers. At least have one when you're working, in case things get out of hand. You never know. I have actually 3. This one, if you watch my videos, it usually sits right there on the bench, so it's easy access when I'm working over there. I also have 2 on opposite ends of my garage that are bigger ones with the nozzle, just in case things get out of hand. Never had to use them, knock on wood, but you want to always have them there for safety purposes. Now let's get into some of the tools. Obviously, first, a good flashlight, just for looking around and, you know, being able to see a little bit more. Choose one that you like, keep batteries in it, keep it handy. You're going to use it a lot. Next thing is a basic hammer. This is a ball peen hammer. I like them because working on motorcycles, you don't need a claw hammer, and that just gets in the way. No more than a 16-ounce hammer you're going to need for anything on a motorcycle. If you need more than that, you're probably doing something wrong. And it's essential for using this next tool that I highly recommend you have in your toolbox, especially if you work on older bikes, an impact driver. Now what it is, as its name states, it is a manual impact driver. It's spring-loaded and it's directional, so when you hit it, it tries to turn the bolt or screw as it shocks it to break the corrosion. This is important on older bikes that use the kind of the Phillips head case screws and things. Those are always corroded in there, and this will help break those loose so you don't strip them out. And you'll need the bits that go with them, and you're going to want an assortment of the Phillips head, both in JIS and standard Phillips. They'll also come with the flathead style, but you'll almost never use them on a motorcycle. So that's almost a gotta have, especially if you're working on old bikes, especially that have been sitting, to get fasteners out. You can also get the adapter so you can use it with sockets and Allen sockets and things for getting cap screws and stuff like that out of, usually found on more European bikes and things. Moving along, we want to get some, have an assortment of pliers. You don't need anything fancy. This is more like a lineman's pliers. You can use the regular slip joint pliers, but you need just a basic size like this. This is mostly just for when you got to pull on something or just kind of twist it a little. You don't use these as a wrench. The other thing is needle nose pliers. Now these are for like cotter pins and things, and when you reach in and pull out something kind of tiny, you'll want two sizes, something around like this. This kind of nice for small things and maybe in the carburetor just picking up little parts and things, and this for larger stuff. Also diagonal cutters, you'll probably want two different sizes for cutting wire ties or baling wire if the previous owner of your motorcycle kind of bodged things together. Buy the best you can, because the better ones are sharper and last a lot longer, but even the cheapies will work, especially for zip ties and things. Going along, and you can see in the back here, my open end wrenches I have hanging up. You're going to want a good assortment of those, because you're going to be taking off nuts and bolts, or you're going to have to hold the nut while you use the socket on one end. And speaking of sockets, you're going to want two different sizes. The 3/8 drive in a good range and assortment, and your 1/4 inch drive in a good range and assortment. The 10mm is going to be the one that you're always going to use the most. And then when it comes to the ratchet, there's a lot of options out there, so this is personal preference. You get kind of more the basic one here, or you can get a little bit more fancy. It's got a swiveling head here, and just buy on these, because these are the lifeblood of the socket. You can't use the socket without this. Buy the best you can afford on these. Same with the 3/8 drive. Basic one here, a little more specialty, and obviously has a little more leverage. There's times where actually you don't want that much leverage, or you don't have room to get in there. That's typically on bikes with bodywork and things. So again, personal preference on that. Another thing going along is this socket handle, which is handy because on the other end it has the square drive for your ratchet to snap on there, and it's kind of nice. You can break it loose and then sit here and take it off, and then just turn the bolt out. Very handy. This is optional, but I recommend it because it also works as an extension too to get into smaller places. And speaking of extensions, with 3/8 drive, basically two sizes at bare minimum is about all you're going to need for motorcycle work. Now, 1/4 inch drive, I kind of recommend 3 sizes, because usually some of those fasteners can be hidden down into some body work, and sometimes you need a long reach or kind of a medium and then a very short reach. And that's also the benefit of the handle, is it kind of is somewhere in between and can help you get into some places too. Makes it a little easier. Another thing is, usually with European bikes, Allen keys and something like this is typically all you'll need. You can buy the sets, that come all loose and everything, or you can buy one of these. Typically, these no bigger than they are, this will be suffice. You can also go to the T-handles here, but sometimes you can't get in everywhere with these, or you can't get enough torque on them, so this, like I said, is kind of optional. Now let's get into some basic measuring devices you have. First thing, these are like 30 cents or something. A spark plug gapping tool, has the measurements and everything. Every toolbox ought to have this for gapping your spark plugs. Obviously a tire gauge. This is a low pressure gauge. Mostly found on off-road bikes. You're going to have pressures ranging from 4 to about 16. And this goes in 1 pound increments. Obviously, street bike guys, a typical automotive style one will suffice for you guys, because you're probably running between 28 and 32 depending on the bike. The other thing, if you do a lot of carburetor work, or you're going to start diving into this, and like I said, these get given out as promos, free promos, but they're only a couple bucks in most places. It's a little graduated scale with a little sliding stop on it, so you can set your measurement for like float height or something, and you can set that and measure it where the float touches and see if you're close. It's just a handy little depth gauge. Plus it has some conversions on the back. No toolbox should be without this. Same with the caliper, and even these cheap plastic ones are okay for the basic home mechanic. They're accurate enough for most things until you start getting into internal engine work and things where you want to spend some money on a higher quality, more accurate caliper, but at least have the cheapo plastic ones, because you will need to maybe make some measurements. Another thing is feeler gauges, especially if you're going to start doing your own valve adjustments and things. You're going to need these for different reasons. Make sure that they have the SAE and metric measurements stamped on there. It just helps because sometimes the book is only in one or the other, depending on your motorcycle. The next thing is some kind of multimeter, and even the $5 ones like this one will do most everything. The more money you spend on these, the more accurate, the more bells and whistles and things they have. But for most things on a motorcycle testing, you only need to test for ohms of resistance or some low DC voltages. So these $5 ones are just fine for those measurements. So this should always be in your toolbox too. And these typically have a battery in them. So, and usually it's screwed in the back. So I recommend actually taking the battery out and keeping it in the toolbox, and then putting it in when you're going to use it, unless you use this thing a lot. Otherwise it just corrodes, and then it never works when you need it to work. Little pro tip there. Moving on to the more specialized tools for things and operations that get a little more technical. Torque wrenches. I have two different kinds here, a beam style and a click type. For most things, it doesn't really matter on these. There's a big debate out there which one's better. And anyways, with the click type, make sure you understand how to use it, understand the numbers. This one is in foot-pounds and Newton meters. Some of the smaller ones are in inch-pounds, and so you need to do some conversions. And make sure the scale goes high enough for whatever it is you're going to be tightening. Typically on motorcycles, most all basic torque wrenches are going to go high enough, but just something to keep in mind. But like I said, practice using it, practice understanding how to read it. And getting a little bit more specialized here, this is if you start getting a little more advanced and want to do some more advanced stuff. We were talking about the feeler gauge and valve adjustments for you 4-stroke guys. Here's just one kind of specialty tool for making valve adjustments a little easier on the set screw and jam nut style, and I have an assortment of these, about 10 different ones, have different sizes in here and things. These can help you hold the set screw while you turn the lock nut. You can do it without these tools. These just make them a lot easier. These happen to be from Motion Pro. I like them. I think they're a quality tool and well worth it if you're going to start doing your own valve adjustments. And you can buy them individual for just your bike. I have an assortment because I work on a lot of different bikes and have a lot of different bikes. Next thing is, like, obviously if you're going to have ignition, do some ignition work with the stator, and you're going to have to remove the flywheel. This is just one style of flywheel puller. This is also from Motion Pro, and this is for the one that put 3 bolts in. They're threaded into the flywheel, and then as you turn this in, it pulls it out. There's other kinds like this, where it has, the flywheel may have internal threads. This threads in there, then this threads and pushes on the crankshaft and pulls it out. It does the same thing, just for a different style of flywheels. So for your bike, you'll have to buy the correct one. Other thing, if you're going to do some top end work, you're going to need this for either installation or removal of the wrist pin. And this is one that has different sizes, will fit a lot of different sizes of wrist pins and everything. A lot of manufacturers make this. There's no rhyme or reason. You don't just buy the cheapest one, because this is a tool you use not that often, and even the cheap ones will do the job. Next thing might be specialized spanners for if you're doing more internal engine work, for like clutch hub nuts and the primary gear nuts or things. Might have special spanner, and you need a special socket for that. These can be found by many manufacturers. Just buy the one that fits whatever nut you're trying to get off there. If you know you're going to do some suspension work and suspension adjustments, it might be worth it to buy the specialized spanner wrench for the jam nut and the preload to change the shock spring and things. You can do it with a hammer and a screwdriver or punch, but that you can wreck the ears on the jam nut and things. This will prevent that. It's up to you. Most beginners won't need this unless they want to get into kind of suspension tuning a little bit, or basic suspension tuning. And then kind of the last thing I'll show you here is definitely if you're going to get into more specialized operations like truing rims or something as a dial-in indicator. This can be used for other things, checking run out and such. Like I said, most beginners won't have a need for this, but if you want to start doing your own tuning and other things, you may need one of these. And this is where I would definitely not go with the cheapest, but you don't have to go with the most expensive style. Somewhere in between will get you one that's pretty accurate, but the cheapies are definitely not to be, they're definitely to be avoided. Well, I hope you learned something today. If you're just tired of paying those dealer service fees, the tools available here to do some of the routine and basic maintenance on your motorcycle do not cost that much, and it's not really that hard. With an owner's manual and a service manual, you can do a lot of the things yourself, and I hope that you check out the other videos on my channel will help you with some of those repairs. So until next time, I'm the Junk Man, and thanks for watching. Oh, and one other thing. YouTube recently changed how subscriptions kind of work. So if you want to know exactly when I post a new video, is go over, hit the subscribe button, and next to it is a little bell. And you hit that, and then check the box that says email notifications. This will send an email to your inbox exactly when I go live or post a new video.